taking a little bit working on this vehicle, and of course winter time and other problems we got to deal with. We're in a bit of a lull, so I'm trying to come up with something that you might be interested in the meantime here. What we're looking at is a project that I worked on in 2009, 2010, and this is a functioning barbecue that we built out of a 318 engine. And this is a retirement gift for a journeyman that I worked under in the trades. During the retirement, I was the one who had to do the presentation. So what I had done was the gift was waiting outside the building, and in the presentation, I had given him this set of keys and made it sound like we had restored a Dodge car for his retirement. And I presented him with the keys to his new Dodge. We had quite a few people involved working on this, and somebody knew an upholsterer, so they had custom built upholstered covers to cover both the barbecue, and this is a stand-up toolbox. And the idea for the stand-up toolbox is that he could put all of his condiments and barbecue tools and a place to stage and prep or whatever he's barbecuing. Another little detail was that somebody had gotten his signature, and they had embroidered that on the covers as well, along with Dodge logos there. Here's a view of the front of the finished product here, and what we have is the shifter on the back. That's going to open up the lid, so you're not going to burn yourself when you're trying to open it up. And then in the front here, we had some gauges, and that was just for aesthetics purposes. And then on the left side, you can see an ignition, and that would be what the key that I presented him with would go in, and it actually goes in there and you can turn it. On the other side, might be a little hard to see, but there's a push button igniter over on the right side of the two control knobs there. We have our hose connection that's coming from the barbecue tank that we had the local body shop paint for us, and then we put that NOS sticker on there. Up top here, we've got the distributor cables and spark plugs that go in there, some chrome valve covers, and the exhaust. Everything cleaned up, sandblasted, painted, and installed. The carburetor, I felt when I put the air cleaner on top of the carburetor, it looked kind of goofy. It was too high. It just looked strange. So what I did was I recessed that, and that's why it sits over the carburetor, and you can't really see the carburetor there, but there's a carburetor underneath that air cleaner there. Up front, what we have is our bracketry for the power steering, and then we have our fan, and then on the other side there we're going to have our alternator. We also have the crank pulley in there. I do remember when we did the crank pulley, we had the machinist build a stub shaft just to install that crank pulley, and it does turn. Here's another angle of the finished product from the back end here. You can see that we've got our oil filter on, our exhaust manifold. We have a custom bracket that holds on that alternator, and we also have that fuel pump on there. If we get in, we can see that we've got our harmonic balancer and our pulley off of the crank. And if you wanted to, you could be able to put the belts on if you wanted to add the belts as a complement to it. And then in this one here, you can see where the lid is opened on the barbecue. What we had to do when we did this was we had to get an engineer involved to help us calculate where to put the offset on the back plate to support the engine, because when you open that lid, you don't want it falling over. So there's a little bit of math involved there. And what happened is that instead of it being supported in the direct center of the engine, it's actually offset. So I think it's offset to about here, so for the counterweight of opening the lid. Here's a picture of the top with the lid open. You can see on here we've got our coil, our distributor, our air cleaner. We've got some fancy stuff on there, like that nut to hold down the air cleaner there. We have a temperature gauge that's in the top of that valve cover, so you can see how hot your barbecue is. Over here we have the thermostat in place, and we have the neck, the filler neck as well. All of this is to seal up the lid so that you're not losing all your heat through the lid. There'll likely be a plate that's in between the carburetor and the intake manifold, and in that case you don't have any heat coming up through there either. All of the components, like in the distributor and stuff like that, we've removed all the gaskets, anything plastic, so it won't get compromised by any of the heat, so it's all functional. Here is the back side with the lid open. So what happened was we removed as much material as possible on the heads and the intake to reduce the weight. I don't remember what the finished weight is on that lid, but it's still pretty heavy. And we had one of the welders weld a weldable hinge on there. When I say weldable hinge, this is a weldable hinge here. So you'll just place this flat on one side and this on the other on what you're welding. And that's what we have holding that lid down. And because that was cast to steel, we had to get one of the welders weld that in, and there was some prep work there involved to make all that work. The heads are bolted to the intake, but also too, I think we have some stitch welding in there as well. Here as well, you can see where the alternator is separate, and you can probably have all your belts on there if you wanted to put your belts on there. There's another angle here of the lid open again. And then from the front end here. This might be our best chance to try and see that offset there. So there's a plate on the back that bolts on the back of the engine, holding that on there. And you won't be able to see it because we've got our controls here, but we have the starter in there too. So this is a plate with a hole and a provision to bolt the starter in, and an offset to hold that with both the lid closed and open. This is basically an engine stand, a functioning engine stand with a modified end here just to hold the engine here. So you could, if you wanted to, you can also turn this thing 360 degrees once you've removed that tank on the bottom. Here's a picture of the inside here with the custom grill that we made. I'm gonna try and get in there. This is what you can see here for, this is the head. So this would be the top of the valve cover in there. And this is after we've carved out the head and as much as we could to remove material. There's a lot of material that need to be removed from the head, the intake, and also inside the block here. A lot of work to remove a lot of material in there. And careful too, because we didn't want to compromise the structural integrity of this thing once we remove that material. Here's a picture of the custom grill. I don't know if you can see on the inside, but we've got our burners down on the inside there, and we've got everything all opened up right down to the oil pan. The frost plugs that are in the block, they can be opened or adjusted to bring air in from the bottom as well. The custom grill that we built here at the time, the Gen 3 Dodge truck, was a big deal, and so this is supposed to be kind of the grill that was in that truck with the rounded corners here and up the top, and then just throw the logo in the middle. And the fellow that we were building this for, he had a big nose and a handlebar mustache that we used to tease him about, and he was good about it. You know, we're all good friends. So we threw that in there as well, and just as a custom feature to the grill. In the end, it was a fun project to work on, and I don't know, maybe I'll do another one day, but yeah, hope you found that interesting.